Hey everybody, I'm Jack with Future Pastimes, and in this video I want to talk about the top 30 aliens whose artwork is most like what that alien is supposed to be. Now, the Fantasy Flight Edition, I think, for the most part, has done a pretty good job of having the aliens look the way the name suggests they should look. Although famously, we do have the situation where we have virus and zombie, and the aliens don't necessarily match the art. If I have to pick which one of these two is the virus, my instinct says it's this one, but as you can see, this is zombie, and this is virus. Now, Kevin Wilson was in charge of shepherding and designing the base game, and he insists that this is not a mistake. And I'm not going to suggest that he is lying to us. He may simply be mistaken himself. It could be that when this was turned in, it said virus on it when it came in, and maybe the mix-up was there. And maybe he did say, you know what, we should have a zombie that doesn't look like a stereotypical zombie, something that looks maybe a little bit more like this. But I feel that the Cosmic Encounter aliens should look like what we think they would look like, and because for the most part they do. So if this was going to be the idea where we're going to have an alien that doesn't at all look like the stereotypical imagery that we think of for a zombie or for a virus, that didn't trickle down to the rest of the aliens. So in my Tabletop Simulator edition, these are switched because this to me looks a lot more like a zombie and this looks a lot more like a virus. In any case, however you decide it should be, or the way, if you accept it the way it is, we're going to look at aliens that avoid that whole controversy completely because they look almost exactly like you would expect that alien to look. And in fact, if you were looking at these aliens and you didn't know what their names were, in most cases here, you could probably guess it. So that's what we're going to do. Top 30 aliens, in my opinion. It was hard to decide, this is 21 and this is 22. So it's a little bit subjective, certainly. And I'll do my best, but we're going to start with number 30. And it's an alien from Cosmic Eons, and it's Nanny. And I think this looks like a nanny. It looks like a British nanny to me, handling a child with care. But there's not a lot of affection here. Certainly a protective person, so a custodian or a babysitter. But I think Nanny is pretty good. So if you had to guess it, you would probably guess something that was in the ballpark of what a nanny is, protecting this loser from the hateful entities out there in the universe. And I especially love this artwork anyway, just because I think it's very evocative of a nanny, and I love the reuse of the other aliens. So Loser is an alien who shows up on a lot of alien sheets. Hate also shows up, and it's going to show up again in this list, as you will soon see. So Nanny, I think the artwork is good. I think it looks like a nanny, and it definitely belongs, in my opinion, in the top 30 here. Moving on to number 29. This is a base game alien, and it's another one of my favorite pieces. And speaking of recurring characters, we have Parasite. Now, Parasite is just this part up here because it's on the head of Pacifist, which is one of the other base game aliens. And I think it's a good choice to pick an alien to bully. Sure, it's going to be Pacifist. They don't really fight back, so they're easy pickings. This is a great piece of art, and it was the cover of the base game for the second printing, and I think it's the best cover for the base game. So I really love this. I think that Parasite is a good guess. Someone might have said, "Oh, maybe this is a symbiote," but no one's going to say, "Oh, Parasite, that doesn't make sense." It absolutely does, and it's a great depiction of how a parasite would work. I love, again, the interaction with the other aliens in the catalog there. All right, moving on to 28. This is an alien from Cosmic Dominion, and it is, I think, a really elegant way to depict what was kind of an esoteric concept, and that alien is Yinyang. So when we were submitting the final list of aliens for the expansion, and we had some new art that was going to be commissioned for it, Yinyang was on there. We didn't have very high hopes for what Yinyang was going to look like. We expected it to be, you know, the Yinyang symbol flying through space. So I was especially pleased with how this one turns out. I think, again, it's a really elegant depiction of it. It's not so on the nose. It's not the sort of thing where somebody, if you showed it to them and guess what this alien is, they wouldn't necessarily pick up on it right away. But it's one of those where you say, well, this is Yinyang. And they go, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This is a really nice way they've done it. It's got the dark portion, the light portion. It's making a yin-yang symbol, but it's not super obvious. So it was kind of a, should this even be on the list for me? But because I was so impressed and it blew away my expectations, I had to include it. So I really like this alien as well, but I think the artwork is fantastic. So they did a home run with that one. Moving on, we've got an alien from Cosmic Storm that I think has a really good artwork, and that is Outlaw. They did a good job with this. This looks like the rootinest, tootinest toy dog in the galaxy, and I believe this is a Felicia piece. It's great. I know that Peter Laka, was constantly bemoaning how many aliens had guns in their art, but here the fact that it has 6 ridiculous guns, I think it makes sense that it would have it. It's an outlaw, and I like that it was so on the nose with just how much heat that this alien is packing, that it makes sense and it doesn't bother me at all. So yeah, I enjoy this, and this is one of the better aliens, I think, in Cosmic Storm. So it's nice that it really captures the spirit of what this alien is and what it does. All right, number 26 is an alien from Cosmic Odyssey. It's an old alien that had been around. Its original form was very abstract. This one, I think, is super accurate, and it's Assessor. So when you see this artwork, you're looking at somebody who's maybe a tax collector. They've got the receipts, they're calculating stuff. So Assessor might not be the word that you would go to right away, but again, it's another example of, once you're told what the name of this alien is, you say, oh, of course it is. That's a perfect depiction. So it's a really nice piece of art. The color is great on it, and yeah, it looks just like you would expect an alien Assessor to appear. All right, we are now down to number 25. This is a base game alien, and this was one that I debated about whether having on the list, but I'll explain why I decided it had to be included, and that is Warrior. So this is a really interesting depiction. It has this vibe of a samurai alien following the Bushido code, and so I think it's a really good pick for Warrior. Now, there are a lot of aliens that could have been Warrior. There's a lot of Warrior-esque aliens. A lot of them have guns. This one has a sword. But I showed this to somebody, and I said, guess what the name of this alien is? And they were like, I don't know, Warrior? And yeah, that's what it was. So I think it's a good job. It's a nice original take on doing a Warrior. But like I said, even though there are other Warrior-esque looking aliens in the catalog, this one to me seems like the most Warrior of them all. So I was pretty happy with how this turned out. Now, our next alien is also a base game alien, and this one has a pretty storied past because it has changed a little from its original Eon version, and this alien is Oracle. So one of the original box covers for the Eon edition, not the very first one, but probably one of the most famous one, has Oracle on the cover, and it's the same art that was used for the Alien Throwback in Cosmic Odyssey. But the Mayfair edition of Oracle looked just like this as well. And, you know, you see somebody in a green robe with 3 eyes, and you're like, okay, it's an Oracle. And I think the art department at Fantasy Flight, they were probably told, do we really want Oracle to look like the old Oracle? But it's not the sort of thing that they probably pushed back on a lot, because they're like, okay, yeah, it looks like an Oracle. So we're fine with following that tradition. So that's why this one has made it on the list. I think it's a good fit, and it's a classic look for Oracle. And our next alien is a little bit funny because it is the alien from Cosmic Eons. But here you have, you know, a very stereotypical alien like we have come to know and love in our own decades of having aliens in pop culture. This looks like something right out of Communion. And so if you were guessing this alien, some people might say, oh, it's probably Abductor, because once again, you've got it. It's messing with a familiar character here. Pacifist, once again, is the victim of whatever hijinks this alien is up to. But again, if you were to spread all of the alien sheets out and said, you need to pick one of these alien to be alien, I think this would probably get the consensus, because, yeah, it's pretty much what we expect an alien to look like when you say, yeah, there's aliens in this game. We're like, okay, sure. Yeah, it cracks me up. I like the look of that one. All right, moving on. This is an alien that was in, I believe, Cosmic Conflict originally. This is the Cosmic Odyssey alt timeline version of it. And the artwork for those, anytime there was an alt timeline alien, it was based on the original artwork with some twists and turns. And we have Sadist here. So this Sadist is very similar to the original Sadist. I think it's the implements of torture that are slightly different. And it cracks me up. One of them is a feather. And so someone might have guessed, oh, is this the torturer? Or maybe they think it was, you know, the rack, because that was an original alien in here. But it's another example of, once you're told this is the Sadist, they go, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. And if you said, you know, like, look at these aliens and pick out one to be the Sadist, this one definitely works. It looks more like a torturing alien than the rack alien from Cosmic Odyssey does. That one has a little bit more of an abstract look to it. It definitely looks like something you wouldn't want to tangle with, but this sadistic character, I think, fits the bill very, very well. So I'm really happy with what they did with the artwork for both versions of it, and I think it definitely looks like how it's supposed to look. Now, this alien, in its original Eon edition, didn't really look much like an alien. It was like a pool of murky water with a soda can floating in it. And that alien, it's in Cosmic Conflict, and it's Filth. And I think this is an alien that, you know, how are you going to have an alien that looks like Filth? Well, have it look like something that the cat couldn't quite cover up in the litter box with its stinky fumes coming off of it. I think it does a good job. It's suitably icky and filthy looking. So yeah, no question here about what we're talking about with this one. So the less said, the better, I think. All right, we're down to number 20. Number 20, alien from Cosmic Odyssey, and it's Dragon. And what's interesting was that there's an alien in Cosmic Dominion called Explorer, and the artwork for that one was originally going to be for a different version of Dragon. But you know, we had the artwork, but we weren't going to have Dragon, so we assigned it to Explorer. We got a brand new Dragon for Cosmic Odyssey. So I think it's, you know, because it's breathing this sort of molten, who knows what it is, radioactive gas and goo. If it had big wings, it would be even more dragon-esque. And what's funny is that the Explorer Dragon also doesn't have wings. So I guess they wanted to steer clear of the wings, but I think it looks like a dragon. It certainly doesn't look like a dinosaur because it's got the breath weapon. So yeah, I think this one works pretty well. Our next one's from Cosmic Dominion, and it's another one that it's so on the nose in a great way, and that is Judge. I mean, this looks like Judges. It looks a little bit like the leaders from Krypton who stand in judgment of General Zod. But here they've got the powdered wigs as well, so it's extra evocative of judgment. And this one, when I saw the artwork for this, it made me laugh and filled me with delight, because I was like, yeah, that's a great pick for Judge. So I'm super happy with this out. I think it works, and it's pretty obvious what it is. Speaking of obvious, we got a base game alien, and that you're like, okay, yeah, that seems pretty straightforward. Human, all right, it's a human, and not only that, but sort of a Buck Rogers-esque sci-fi 50s version of a space human. You know, all he needs is like a little helmet, but even without it, I think it's very clear what this alien is supposed to be and how it works. While there's a lot of other humanoid aliens in the set, there's none that really quite look like a full-on human being from planet Earth. So this one, I think, is a nice fit for an alien called Human, which I'm super happy to see in the edition. Now, this alien that's next is it's one that brings back hate. But what's funny about this is I think this is a great alien for love. It looks just like I would have pictured, but this wasn't originally going to be love. It was going to be an alien called Guardian, and you know, it has a similar vibe to Nanny, where you've got this protective, matronly character there protecting a little one. In this case, it's protecting it from hate, and in this case, it is hate. But the sheer joy that you see on this one is much more in the realm of love than this one. So no one's going to, I think, mistake Nanny for love. You might mistake love for Nanny if you're like, here's the list of the aliens, and then try to match them up with them. But knowing that there's one in here called love, this is really the only one that it could be. But yeah, it's another example of it. It cracks me up that this wasn't exactly what it was supposed to be. And there's another alien on this list that has this same story. So we're going to get to that one pretty soon. So love. All right, number 16 on our list from Cosmic Eons, and it's another alien that has a crossover, and that is Moocher. So Moocher is here sitting next to Oracle, and they're on the Moocher couch, which is nice to get that in there. So this is one that could have been lower on the list because there's a few different stories that could be going on. This could be, you know, a blind date sort of situation. Oracle clearly doesn't look happy about the situation. They're not into the other one. But the fact that we're on the couch and we've got the soda here, I don't know, it feels a little bit more moochy. It could go either way. So I struggled with, well, where is it going to go on here? But because this one cracks me up so much, I was like, all right, I'm fine with it being, you know, number 16 on the list. So you let me know if you think this should be higher up or lower down. But yeah, Moocher, I think, looks good. And it's one more example of here's a list of the names and then try to match them up with the alien. I think that more people would end up saying, this is Moocher. All right, top 15 from Cosmic Eons. This is another one. And it's Kutz. And Kutz has the opposite story from Love and one of our upcoming aliens, where there's an alien in Cosmic Dominion called Pickpocket, and that was originally going to be Kutz, but it got booted out of that expansion and ended up in the other one. So the Kutz art was actually applied to Pickpocket, which almost made it onto this list. But this is a very klutzy looking alien. It's got all kinds of boo-boos, so there's band-aids and whatnot. He's in the process of falling over, so I think it works really well. That's why it's this high up on the list. A very klutzy looking character, and real happy with how I think this is a much better Kutz than the Pickpocket Kutz was. So it's a nice alien. Cosmic Dominion, we've got another fun alien, and that is Tourist. And I think all of the regalia here definitely says Tourist. You've got the little camera. You've got the loud shirts and the bags and the treats. We've got another visitor here on there. It's a depiction. Looks like Xenophile there on the goodies bag. So Tourist is a really good fun. This is definitely far more on the whimsical side. So you've got an alien like Leviathan, which doesn't really have a lot of whimsy, but then you've got Tourist, which is I think much more on the funny side of things. All right, moving on, we've got the Cosmic Storm. Very similar to our tourists here, our neighbors. So a real similar kind of vibe here, but the green jello is what sells it for me. You know, they're definitely, they've got a mixed drink. They've got, I don't know, is that a maraca? They're ready to party. And they've brought, you know, what you would expect somebody, say in the 50s, to show up at the party with. One of your neighbors has definitely brought the jello mold. There's some strange stuff floating in that jello, but I think that some of these other aliens would snap that right up. All righty, we are number 12 is another alien from Cosmic Dominion that had its art assigned to it, even though it wasn't originally supposed to be that, and that is Bride. This art was actually originally meant to be for Lloyd, which did show up in Cosmic Odyssey, looking very much different. It looks like a shepherd, a crazy space sheep. But this one worked really well for Bride. We knew we wanted to have Bride in there, and as we were looking through the artwork that we had to use, this one was probably the first one that we were like, okay, well, we've got Bride. You know, great, that's check. And as you can see, you know, Loser is hanging out there with Bride. What is she looking at here on the list? Is this, you know, the registry? Maybe. Is it the terms of the divorce? More likely. So a good alien and a fun one to have in the set. Number 11 is from Cosmic Odyssey, and it is Phantom. And I think you've got some fun little theater jokes here. It looks kind of like Phantom of the Opera with the sort of mask. Plus, it's holding a Yoricky skull that says theater, so it really helps to connect it down. So it's a different take on Phantom, but it is also still kind of ghostly. There's a kind of a spectral element to this. So it's hitting the Phantom from two different directions, which is why it's so high up on the list here. A really good alien, fun one to have in the set. This gives us to our top 10. And I'm going to have a little note about one that's not on the list that I think everyone is expecting to see on the list, and I'll explain why it's not at the end. So let's start with our top 10. From Cosmic Odyssey, we have Tentacle. Now, this is a ball of tentacles, so I think it could have been more tentacly if like they were all, you know, flapping around, but I kind of enjoy that this looks like how it maybe travels through space. It almost resembles stacked ships in a way. So I enjoy Tentacle. I like that there's a lot of different sized tentacles, different textures, kind of all balled into one giant tentacle sphere. So I think this one does a good job. Number 9 is from Cosmic Alliance, and that is Lightning. So this was another one where the first time I was going through the aliens, and I kind of skipped past it. Then I came back and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's got lightning coming out of its hind end. So I think it works pretty well. I like that it's partially composed of lightning, but it has its own alien life form elements to it. It's got these crazy things on top that are helping to conduct the electricity or whatever it is it's doing. So this one, as soon as I see it, I know exactly what this alien is. There's definitely some, you know, an over 200 plus aliens where you're flipping through and you're like, all right, which one is that? Is that, it's, you know, it's some bipedal alien wearing a weird outfit, and you're like, oh, it could be one of 3 or 4 different aliens. All right, the next one from the base game, another alien that has kept its same look over all the different editions, and that is Mind. So Mind has always somehow ended up being a big brain in space with a single eyeball poking out of it. So yeah, it's one of these examples of, if you had to guess what this alien is, you might dance around a few different concepts, but Mind, I think, works pretty well. It's a big space brain floating in its own nebula and gathering its thoughts, as it were, and using that single eye to look at your hand and then not talk about it because it doesn't have a mouth. So it all kind of works out, especially when you take into account how the alien power works. All right, moving on to Cosmic Odyssey, and that is Inferno. And so I like this for Inferno because it does have an alien. It has a corporeal form to it, but it does seem to be this completely fire-based entity. So this is one of the types of aliens that if you had to guess what its name is, Inferno probably wouldn't show up at the top of your list. So maybe this alien should have popped further down on the list that rather than here in the top 10. But I just like the art so much. So I'm kind of grading on a number of different subjective angles. And I love this alien as well. So it's a lot of fun for me. All right, number 6 from Cosmic Eons. Very obvious what we're talking about here. We have the sheriff. It's some kind of a police officer, but it's got kind of a British vibe going on, and less of a Old West type of sheriff like our Outlaw alien that we saw earlier. So this is, Sheriff of Space Nottingham, something like that. Very funny alien, lots of good details. I was really happy with how this one turned out. We hadn't really given them a lot of direction on this, and they still managed to do it. All right, we're in the top 5 now. These are the top 5 with plus, an asterisk. But number 5 is Geek, and this is a pretty geeky alien in a couple of different ways. It's wearing the 3D glasses, stack of books, backpack. It's got the loser and the oracle as little dangly toys. It's got, a watch, and it's stickers and patches. That says Geek to me. And this, again, it came about as we were having a conversation about Board Game Geek, and Peter Alaka had decreed we need to have an alien called the Geek. So I put my thinking cap on and tried to come up with something. All right, number 4, also from Cosmic Odyssey. And this one was very close to the mock-up that I had made for how I wanted it to look. And I guess the Fantasy Flight art department were like, yeah, that sounds great. And that is Decoy. And I wanted to have the sort of duck/peep-esque look from the Horde alien as what's on the top. So because it reminded me of a duck, which is a type of decoy. So I think this one works really well. I love the whole overall look. I think is great. It turned out really well. And I think it's pretty clear what this alien is trying to do. So there's, we have a doppelganger and a changeling, but this one stands out, and it's the duck that I think makes the difference. All right, we're in the top 3. From Cosmic Dominion, we have Joker, and this is pretty clear what we're doing here. It could have been a Motley Fool, as you're guessing it, but Joker, I think a lot of people will obviously go, yeah, this has got to be this alien. It looks great too. It's got some really creepy elements to it that makes it a little bit more alien, which I think is great, and that's what you want. You want these Cosmic Encounter aliens to look like they are aliens, but they remind you of something. And so we as humans, if we're the ones naming the aliens, we would take one look at these and we would call these aliens the Jokers. And that's why I think, with the zombie and virus, That's what I think we were expecting. We would see one that looks like a zombie, and we would say, this alien race, these alien species are the zombies, especially because they also behave like zombies, and a virus behaves like a virus. So it's not just how they look, it's what they do that sells it. All right, top 2, Cosmic Dominion has given us Angler. And I think this is a pretty good, again, what's great about this is that it doesn't just look like, the sort of fish that works like an angler on Earth, but it's an alien version of it. So it's got the little spaceships and 3 of them. And so it's not just we took a picture of that fish and said that'll work. It has its own cosmic-y stamp on it. So that's what's great about that. And then the number 1 from my initial go-through of this, from Cosmic Odyssey, Bubble. Yeah, it looks like bubbles. It is a bunch of bubbles. And but like all of these other aliens, it has it's not just bubbles. It's got some alien identity. There's little faces on the bubbles. So this is not just bubbles. This is life. And it's clear that they're all part of the same species. And yeah, they're floating in space. So it's space bubbles. So it makes sense. Now, the one alien I didn't include on here, and it was only because it wasn't until much later when I started working on the video that I realized that I'd had a couple of aliens that were set aside from a cosmic campaign, and one that definitely would have been on here, and that is the Claw. I think it's a great piece of artwork. It's another alien that reuses some stuff, and it's in a box, set up, and so I just didn't dig it out. And I have got multiple copies of a lot of the game. I've got one that's fully in storage in my display case, and so I hadn't gone through those. So yeah, I've got too many copies of Cosmic Encounter and the expansions lying around. So went through one, but the Claw, just totally skipped right over it and didn't even notice it wasn't there. That would have been on here. Might have booted out one of these other aliens, or I might have just said, we got to go with 31, and we'll start with Nanny as a honorable mention. But there you have it. Let me know if you think there's an alien that should have been on this list, one of the ones that you think is the most like its name, looks most like what it's supposed to be, and what it does as well. And what you think of this list. And what do you think of these aliens? What's your favorite alien of these 30 aliens that looks the most like its name? And thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.